Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Make Mine Mayday, the show all about Spider-Girl and her world. I'm Zach Joyner, your friendly neighborhood webmaster of Spideydude.com and the executive producer of the Spideydude Radio Network. Tonight, we have a special episode devoted to the film Across the Spider-Verse, but importantly and equally, we'll be talking about and discussing the future of the show and hearing from you, the fans. As always, I am joined by the host of the program, the illustrious Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Hi. Illustrious.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You're illuminating. Like you have a light about you.
Thank you.
That's what I'm trying.
Probably the ring light.
Well, I've got two lights that are on me right now.
I need a better light setup than here. There's not. That's why I've been turning on the pink light, do the mood lighting, because it actually helps in this room. But all good, because I figure most of this episode's going to be pretty short and sweet, y'all. Just to go ahead and jump into it. We don't really have too much housekeeping or spider news. I do know that people want us to talk about the little cameos that have been peppered in through ASM lately, and we will talk about it once there is enough to talk about. Right now there really isn't, although we will touch base on a few of the questions because it was brought up and I was kind of confused by it, because we'll talk. But yeah, so let's go ahead and just kind of move on in, since like I said, we don't really have any news or housekeeping. So let's kind of start at the beginning of knowing that Mayday Parker was going to be in the sequel to Spider-Verse.
Yeah, so to kind of talk a little bit about it, we got our first look at the concept art via social media, and I'm going to share my screen as I pull this up. And so this happened. There we go. Sure. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties, which is such a shock. This was back in December 13th, 2022. So this was the first time we saw little baby Mayday, and a lot of people were excited about this. And this was confirmation that a Mayday Parker was going to be in the sequel. As we have often said, and Kelly, you can kind of jump in here on this. This is not Earth 982 Mayday.
No. Though of course we don't necessarily, I believe, what world was he in the first movie? Was he counted as 616?
I think it was counted as 616.
Yeah, he was counted as 616. So this is technically movie Sony's 616 animated movie, because now there's literally, I think, at least 4 different 616s. Fun times, maybe more. But anyway,
it's 616-1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is some concept art we're looking at for our audio only listeners. We are looking at the concept art that was originally posted on December 13th, 2022. This is where everybody started getting she needs to have 2 different color eyes. She has heterochromia, which of course is not what happened in the final design, despite numerous fans' refusal to admit to that truth. Also, another thing we're going to talk about is how nobody cares about canon anymore.
Yep.
I'm giving you guys plenty of heads up before I go into a lot. But yeah, so we see it. She's very cute. And of course, we find out that it will be a baby May. So yay, cute. Aw. And we didn't really know too much.
Yeah.
Other than they did definitely have Spider-Girl, 982 Spider-Girl Mayday in mind. In this is their way of giving us a homage without necessarily putting her as a teenager into the movies, which of course they could still do.
Right.
It's not like, as much as they claimed in 2022, they had both movies written They clearly didn't.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
clearly currently writing the trilogy. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but this is not 982. This is just Sony Animation's 616 Baby May. They decided Infanticide on international waters is just not a right look for a children's film.
So in canon, in the movie canon, at the end of the first film, Peter B. Parker goes and reunites with Mary Jane, and that is who Baby May is in the film.
Yes.
Now, the first time we saw her animated was in the first trailer, which came out on April 4th, 2023. And so that's what, and I don't have the trailer, but I found the date. Yeah. So then everybody got excited because a little baby swinging around. But here's my, and we're not going to
like, it bothered me slightly.
Yeah.
Just, you know, from the responsibility perspective, it makes better sense for the movie. And obviously they're riding high on this baby Yoda, let's have a cute baby and everything. High here.
Because it's Sony.
It's Sony who has to copy everything. Anything they think is a success, they gotta try and fail. But they didn't fail here. This was cute. This was good.
Yeah. This is one of the rare triumphs of them holding the Spider-Man rights.
It really is. But yeah, so anyway, they, you know, it's cutesy, but obviously it is highly irresponsible, but it makes sense for Peter B. Parker.
And we were talking, and Kelly and I were talking about this in the lead up to all this, because we actually watched the movie together.
Yeah, where were you guys? We invited you, and
we invited people
to the Discord.
Yeah, the
only Vinkman showed up.
Yeah, only Vinkman.
Well, and Neil, but
Neil.
Does Neil count?
Somewhat.
Okay.
He counts in my heart.
He's, you know, he's on the show. It's
right.
A little bit different. He does a lot of behind the scenes.
But the fact of the matter was, when we were watching it, I know a lot of us wanted to cover this and do a deep dive, but the depth of Baby Mayday in this film is about that of going to a kiddie pool.
Wow.
I mean, in terms of the
we could use a better phrase than that.
Like in terms of if you're talking about a pool, you know, you're in the shallow end, because there's just not a lot of Baby Mayday, is my point.
There's not, because she's not the main focus of the movie, nor, you know, I'm sure that they were hoping for more viral moments with her, and maybe they were thinking that before they gutted the animation studios they were working with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that has a lot to do with why we don't have any sort of shorts like there was with Spider-Ham.
Right.
So, you know, maybe we'll see some more later in the second half of this story. But yeah, so the whole thing is, ultimately, as we were sitting there watching it, trying to combine notes, we don't have a lot, because, you know, this is Make Mine Mayday. We talk about Mayday and her appearances, and for us to be fair and impartial, we should only focus on Baby May. Well, what does Baby May do? She shows up in the middle of the film. Mm-hmm. She's very cute. That's it. We see her, you know, with her little knitted beanie, and you know, she's in the carrier, that's it until the end, where, you know, she's taking on a little bit more life of her own at the end, kind of going, hey Dad, we gotta
go save Miles. Yeah.
The crew rolled up. Let's go.
And again, you know, there was originally, it was marketed as part Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, and then they changed the title to Beyond the Spider-Verse is the name of the next film. And so, but
it is right now. We don't know what it will be.
Yeah. I mean, that's subject to change. TB.
Yeah,
it's subject to change, just like everything is these days. Until you see it actually hit theaters, or we get trailers and stuff. But it's just, so for the two of us, it was kind of hard. We're like, how do we make an episode out of this? because there's just not a ton to talk about. Everything that Kelly said just now is literally what happens specifically with Mayday in the movie. Yes, there are female women spider girls that are in the background as like part of the society, but that's not
background. Like we don't even have enough information to talk about them. Yes, they look a lot like Mayday. They're wearing the Riley suit, but we don't know who they are because they're background characters. So, we have to focus at this May at hand, who is not 982 Mayday. I understand that breaks all the fanboys' hearts. We'll talk about that later because this goes into a rant I've had before and I will continue to have. Just because you see a Mayday does not mean it is our Mayday.
And I don't know if you've ever, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you've ever articulated it like as succinctly as you're trying to do tonight on the show. I know you've done it like on the Reddit and like in our.
I feel like I have though. That's
I think you've done bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
Is what I'm meaning. Like I think you've done bits and pieces of it over the 4-year history of the show. Yeah. But I think this is going to be a if we did
I'm going to be a villain at this point is what it's going to come down to. Like people are going to be like, I hate her because she's such a stick in the mud and she's not letting me have my fun. And we'll talk about that because again, fan work is not canon and you can do whatever you want, but it also is fan work. It's not canon. We've stuck to the canon so distinctly over the last 4 years. We have like 2-hour episodes just talking about the lore and the implementation. I can't talk, but you know what I mean? Like basically we have discussed literally the world building inside 982.
Yeah.
Like in great detail and how, okay, if we're being told this here, that's not just somebody forgetting the scene in 616. No, that's what happened in 982 because it is a different universe. It doesn't just diverge off,
it's not
like the canon moment is for the divergence is not the infocide on international waters. And I will continue to say that because when you say it like that, you realize how absolutely stupid that editorial moment was.
Right. Not only that, it was also, and we talked about this briefly too, how Bob Harris wanted it to just be this open-ended question and there never being a definitive answer and it being unfair to the audience as a result. But at the same time too, like we also see stuff like, because Mr. and Mrs. Spider-Man is canon to Spider-Girl. So like
yes, yeah, but it's 982.
Yeah,
like it's very clearly a 982, and that helps us with backstory as well because those stories are completely different.
Which also, again, like in the tapestry of Earth 982, there is a lot of similarities to 616, but there is a lot of subtle but profound differences.
It's twins.
Yeah,
they're twin universes.
Yeah,
they're not like the same. Like they're not like identical twins. They're fraternal twins. There's little differences that make them.
Yeah, that's different. A great way of putting it. Fraternal twins. It's not like a branching, because like I know with the multiverse in the way Hollywood portrays it, we just have these like one timeline and all these little branches. That is a way to look at it, but to me, it is a twin timeline, just like you say.
Yeah,
where they exist pretty parallel. Because technically, the question I think people would ask is, in the 616, you don't see Spider-Girl fighting the first Spider Slayer with the Human Torch, but it happened in Earth 982. No. So it's like that's not this, guys. It's not the same thing. It's similar, but yet profoundly different.
Exactly, and it's also you want that. You don't want it to be the same. Like if they had to stick to everything that was happening within the 616 and somehow have that interwoven within 982 when they were writing, you wouldn't have the stories we have.
No, you wouldn't have Carly Cooper showing up and being, hey, you should, with your scientific background, you should consider being a CSI. That was, you don't have Aranya. If we were sticking just to the way the 616 timeline was, showing up later on in Spider-Girl. So it's like, by not being rigid to that timeline, it allows you to be able to take the best of whatever's going on and incorporate it in your own way and spin it, because that's what storytelling is.
Exactly. And we'll go into why, again, it's okay to have an AU. It's okay to have your own universe that you're writing from. With a fan comic is brought up, kind of like, I want your opinions on this, and we'll talk about it, because I never equated it to 982 whatsoever. Yes, they take a lot of inspiration from that, from our Mayday for their Mayday. Completely different. It's completely AU. And that's okay, because they want to tell their story. It's their story. They're not continuing, Tom and Ron's story in their fan work. Because we've talked about this on like where we would take things. And it's like, I know for me, every little bit and piece that I would think about has everything to do with, okay, what came before me? How do I keep it within this world? And that takes a ton of research and a ton of time and a ton of dedication to stick within those limitations, versus creatively, not everybody wants to do that. They don't know that. And you don't need to know everything to write a fan work.
No. I mean, I haven't written anything in years. And this last weekend, I started kind of writing, a Spider-Girl pilot. How would, if I was to do a Spider-Girl series, how would I, with the beauty of hindsight, knowing what we have, the tapestry that we have, how would one adapt that? And
like a cartoon, or
either a cartoon or live action series. I mean, you can do either way. But I'm writing it as more of a short story format, like a script, kind of like a screenplay or scriptment, like the James Cameron scriptment, where it's kind of like that. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, knowing what we know all about, there's things I can pull from the 616, and then there's things I can pull from Earth 982, and we kind of are able to put that tapestry in there. But
too, in that situation as well, you have to think about your medium, and what would work in your medium versus what works on a comic book page.
Yeah, and I saw somebody talking about this on Twitter about how I wish they would do a Spider-Man cartoon like Invincible, where it's just adapting the books.
You mean Invincible that was also ripped off of Superman?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, not downplaying Invincible. It is a great story. But they make differences in the cartoon than they do in the it's just like The Boys. Have y'all ever actually read The Boys comics? Because they're horrible. They're disgusting. And what they've been able to do, in the series is absolutely amazing. But they've taken a lot of creative liberties to build that world out that it wasn't that built out in the comics, at least the original run.
No, it really wasn't. And as people, because that was written by Garth Ennis, wasn't it? I think so.
All I remember is it is problematic.
Well, yeah. Well, if it's Garth Ennis, I mean, outside of Punisher, I think anything he wrote comic book wise, and even some of his Punisher stuff, was problematic at best. And so, because it was like a guy that was writing superhero comics that hated superheroes, which I don't know. I don't get that.
It's
a choice.
It's a choice, but I don't know. I get it from I understand it as a plot line with somebody taking it. And see, that's one of my things is like there's so much that where it's like a story wasn't fully formed at the time of publishing, especially in the 90s on a lot of these more indie comics.
Yep.
That is your gold mine of taking something and going, okay, well, let's flesh this out. You know, and build that world and finding something great in, you know, an idea that kind of was just like, hey, we have like 2 weeks to get this to print.
Yeah, I need a deadline, you know. I mean, deadlines, to quote our friend Ron Frenz, deadlines are a bear. And so, you know, it's like, yeah, you beauty of hindsight and things like that. And you know, to kind of put a bow, like I'm sure that we could get together on like SDE or maybe Patreon and do like a whole big deep dive into Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. I think that it's more of a Patreon exclusive watch party commentary track thing.
Yes.
Because like I said, in terms of us trying to talk about it, what's more to talk about? She's cute. I'm glad she doesn't have one brown eye, one blue eye, but I get why they were thinking about it because they were trying to honor all the different Maydays.
Yeah, and like we've talked about like what color is Mayday's eyes, because in some color, you know, that she's got blue, and some she's got green, and some she's got brown. You know what I mean?
They're blue. They settled on blue. Blue is there. It's just like Peter Parker. Peter Parker's had brown eyes. Peter Parker's had blue eyes. Don't quite remember him having green eyes, but I'm sure some colorist somewhere has given him green eyes. And
I think that's also why they gave him hazel eyes, like canonically, like in the handbook, so that way it, you know, it can alternate and deviate. And Peter's got, you know, May's got Peter's eyes. So I think we can kind of move on to the
So basically just let's move on to kind of talk about the game plan, and then we'll go into the questions. But the game plan for Make Mine Mayday for 2025 is really for us, the hosts, to focus on rest and recharging and really being intentional about where Make Mine Mayday moves next. I know we've talked about this multiple times. Like I've been kind of warning you guys, like, look, unless we get more information, like we get more feedback and we hear from you guys on what you want. We don't really have a show until we get more reviews in. Like, obviously, yes, we're going to try and reach out, as we've stated from the very beginning, try to reach out to Frogo, try to, you know, find other people that have worked on Spider-Girl to have, you know, other interviews and try to get just more voices and kind of really round out the story and make sure that it is online and it's accessible. But, you know, we finished what we wanted to accomplish here. We have an accessible way, because this is free. I don't hide this. Like, I ask Neil, ask Zach, I fight like hell to keep this as free as possible for you guys. You know, we've made an accessible way for everyone to learn more about MC2 and the fandom that basically scared Marvel into making Spider-Girl the longest run female-led superhero comic of Marvel's history. Still to this day, Spider-Woman can suck it. So that legacy
Spider-Woman and She-Hulk.
Well, that legacy number is off by 3.
Yeah,
there's like 3 missing issues.
Yeah, I know.
According to Nick Lowe, but we know he can't do math. So
I don't think he's the one doing the math. I think somebody in the marketing department's doing the math.
But it's really easy to throw him strays.
So. Oh, I know.
Yeah. So the whole thing though is, you know, we've done what we set out to do. So, you know, at this point, we want to hear from you. So on the Spider-Girl subreddit, on our Discord page with Spideydude, in our emails at makeminemayday@gmail.com, and on the Spideydude social media pages. What do you want us to focus on next? Do you even want the show to continue? Obviously, we're not going anywhere. We just don't have a set schedule this year. So
like in the like 10,000 foot view, Kelly and I were kind of talking. I'm like, if we do a show quarterly, I think that would be a success. We did like 5 episodes last year. So if we did,
I think I'm the one that pitched quarterly in the first place, because I was like, at least, we can try and get 4 episodes in this year.
Like I think
fine.
I think we can do that. It's just, but we're not. I remember when we first started the entire modern Spideydude network.
We tried to do 2 episodes a month, and we knocked out a lot of it, but it also at what personal cost. And I know I wasn't in the best place, you weren't in the best place, but we made the sacrifices to make it work. And I'm not sitting there trying to say, you guys need to honor us, whatever. Like, no, like
we're not looking for your pity. We did this as a labor of love, but we were also like really committed, because shows come and go. And when you set a goal for a show, and especially with the way podcasts, like the podcast landscape is nowadays, there is so much.
There's a lot, and everyone can be, I mean, like we use StreamYard. Like, you can get StreamYard, you can use StreamYard, you can upload on YouTube. Everybody can, at this point in this social media age, can create content. And that wasn't my goal. That wasn't the show's goal. The show's goal was, no other series has finished this, like the series. Like, we can't even get Marvel to publish all 100 issues,
We're
in a timely manner. We are close.
We are so close. Although the trade dress is different now, and that's annoying.
Yeah. But it's like, we don't, it's been hard just even to continue to get the issues reprinted.
Yes.
So my thing here has always been, I wanted us to do a deep dive. I wanted us to try our best to hold on to the history while we still can, while we can still reach out to people from the original message boards, and give you guys the story, the actual story, not just what you're hearing through the grapevine and the, oh yeah, there was a Save Spider-Girl thing. Because what I've seen in the fandom lately with newer fans, and we've talked about this again before, it's the same thing. And I go into a greater depth of just fandom at this time in 2025 in general. It is not against, like, it is not singling out Spider-Girl. This is fandom in general. But everybody at this point wants that claim to fame. They want to be the most important person in the community, that the community is not being built. And all I wanted to do here was remind everybody that it was community that saved Spider-Girl. And it was community that made the series what it is. And now I have not been able to get a lot of community members from the fandom, mostly because everybody is now in their late 30s and 40s, and even some in their 50s. And we're all adults with busy lives and don't always have the time to schedule stuff like this. We're also, again, labor of love. We don't get paid for this. Everything that goes to the Patreon literally goes to keep the host, like podcast hosting alive, so you can hear it on your podcatchers, because if it didn't have a home base, it would not. And that does take money from people that I don't think everybody realizes.
I mean, especially now. I mean, behind the scenes, we used to stream it like with 6 different platforms at one point. We only stream to 3 now, because the price increase that StreamYard implemented when they got bought and they rejiggered everything made it to where it was not going to be cost effective enough for me to be able to pay, to stream it in more places. Now what I'm going to try to do moving forward with each episode is the places that we normally would have streamed. I'm going to do the replay and stream it that way. So that way it's at least being put on those different platforms and you have that accessibility. But live, it's going to be at least on, on the places that we feel
can use. Yeah. And that's, you'll see that happening to a lot of your podcasts. I have a feeling, unfortunately, just because so many people use StreamYard and all of the price increases and hikes as we're dealing with hell on earth right now.
Yeah.
We eat the rich. Anyway, so the main thing is me and Zach are not stressing. We'll get you guys episodes. We're not going anywhere. We're here for, who knows, like maybe there'll be a reason for me to hop on and talk about ASM. Probably not. That is my personal protest right now, is I'm not reading ASM until Jackpot is completely gone.
Yeah.
And if that means they kill off Mary Jane Watson at this point, well, I can't.
Well, we both know that if they did, she ain't gonna stay dead for long.
Nobody stays dead.
I mean, not even really. I mean, Uncle Ben in some various forms has come back in the last 20 years, a couple of different times.
We're gonna find out Paul is Uncle Ben reincarnated.
He's the alternate. He's from the other universe.
No, like he's just the reincarnation. Like the soul of Uncle Ben gets put in Paul's body.
Oh,
Amy Marvel for this lovely idea that everyone will love and no one will hate.
So yeah, let us know if you guys want the show to continue. If you want us to, what do you want? We need your feedback. So leave us emails. Kelly and I will talk, even if we have to get on and do like a short, 10-minute thing of responding and going, hey, this is what we're going to do, to promote what we're doing next.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
The fact is we've covered 150 plus issues of comics. We've done a lot, and it's, there's just, do you want us to do the Earth X stuff? Do you want us to do those things? Do you
want us to do Renew Your Vows, which I feel like is asking for us to do it. But it's we can go through those. I don't really have a particular way about it. I know everybody's talking about Ultimate. This show will not go into Ultimate. I don't care. Because that's not this show.
Right. I mean,
I don't want to turn this into an Ultimate.
We have an Ultimate podcast on basically sub show on the network. You can listen to us talk about Ultimate on Spideydude Experience.
Yeah.
So it'd be redundant. Not that I don't enjoy talking about comics with Kelly. I always do enjoy talking about comics with Kelly. But if
it's more of just, where do you guys want this to go, but also kind of give us the grace to dictate our own schedule, because other avenues and shows, we do kind of have to focus on, and that there's not enough content coming in for us to do a monthly episode right now. We're caught up.
Mm-hmm.
And we know it's not forever. Clearly, but we don't have enough to give you guys, a decent show.
It gets to the point where when we know we've exhausted every single avenue that we can exhaust, then we wrap the show up. But we're going to continue to try to figure out avenues. It's just not going to be every 2 weeks or every month is what we're trying to say, I think.
Yeah, it's essentially right now we're kind of going by what if we can find enough to make a show, like an hour-long show at least, then we'll do an episode. We just don't really we're not stressing ourselves to try to stick to some kind of schedule, which I know we've been burned out already and kind of weren't doing that towards the end to begin with. But
it certainly didn't help that we were covering stories that are emotionally draining for us as fans.
And dealing with real life stuff as well, because out of the two people with the most Parker luck,
I'm apparently got bad luck because I still have my Christmas tree up.
That's true. You do.
So
you should take that down. At least, I can understand 12 days after Christmas.
Yeah, I know.
But No, it's time. It's time to take it down.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of. It was hard for me to even get the tree up, but I did it. Damn
Just
it.
put a plastic bag. Do you have enough storage to just put a plastic bag over it and just move it into a closet?
Well, I've got the boxes and stuff, so I'll get all
Okay.
the ornaments off, and yeah.
Okay.
So it's just I need to. Right now, I have to go through the storage to get to the storage and then put it back in the storage, and I need to redo like the whole, like all of Gabby's room right now, and it's a whole big thing. So, and now you know, and knowing is half the okay.
It's true. All right, so let's go into emails and go into the questions we got from Not Gonna Lie, so that way we could actually do an hour-long episode. So I'm gonna let Zach read the email. This is from our own Professor Escanor C.
Yes.
And it's a very visual heavy email.
Yeah, let me pull up my email and get the
it's a very visual heavy email. But speaking of fan work, that does take a lot of work and a lot of talent, and it's really cool.
Yeah, let me where did it go? I don't know where the email is.
It says update, Dark Devil has his own mod.
Oh, okay. I got it. There it is. All right. Thank you. So yeah, and I can at least share the screen that way.
Yep.
So, all right. So the email, although Riley's mom, Olliffe, has yet to be modded, the custom skin of Riley himself that he had made got turned into a proper mod, meaning he's no longer just a skin for DD. He has his own powers unique for Matt, Peter, and May. Could use with some more convincing models of his weapons. With Riley in the game, that technically brings us up to 3 MC2 reps with May, him, and Cassie, 4 if you count the ability to turn Earth X May into April. As of writing, Franklin Richards has no MC2 skin, and neither Thompson nor Jack have been turned into mods. Additionally, May's mod was recently updated to give her the ability to cling enemies to the ground for a limited time to further separate her from the rest of the Spider-Verse. So if you have not played Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, it was a game that came out in 2003 and has been now heavily modded online.
Well, it's also it's cloned online because technically the original game is no longer supported and really no longer playable on Windows 11 without some kind of clone to begin with. So
yeah, because it was on Activision was one of the makers of it. Once they lost the license, unless you have the physical game on console.
Yeah, so this is basically it's a ROM, it's a clone.
But it's fun, and we like to talk about it that way. And so, for our audio listeners, the first image is you got Chasm on the left, you got Dark Devil, you got Kane and Mayday.
Baja Blast.
It is Baja Blast. Yes,
this is a child-friendly show. I'm not saying what I say off air.
On Patreon, you can find that.
Yeah.
So he sent us some screen grabs of gameplay as well. So yeah, this looks really cool. I'm always been impressed. He talks about this a lot on our Discord, which if you have not joined our Discord, I really highly encourage you to do so. The link is in the description of both the audio and video episodes, so you can find us over there. That's our message board community. So like there's one image he has of Scarlet Spider next to Dark Devil, which that may be no, that's not Felicity. So
no, that's
Ben.
Yeah, that's Ben.
So to me, it's just really, really cool. I love that game. Did you play that game?
A long time ago. I haven't played it modded.
Yeah, certainly haven't. Yeah, I haven't.
I think I had it on PlayStation 2.
It was PS2. Yeah. And then I think they did a remastered on PS3. And I think they
didn't play remastered.
Yeah, the remastered was on PS3 because I have the remastered version on PS3. And I don't have the second game remastered, but I have the first. And then Ultimate Alliance 3 was on the Nintendo Switch. And only on Nintendo Switch. So it's not like it put on I don't even think it's on Steam. So yeah. But I enjoyed the game. I know there's been some mods of Insomniac with Spider-Girl, which is kind of cool. But
yeah, except when people go on the subreddit and share the fact that, they're like, forgetting that we modded Peter using Mayday and now she's kissing her mom.
Yeah, that's a little awkward.
Also, sharing that though is just gross.
Yeah, yeah, that's just, come on, guys, be better.
And also too, I've seen a lot of stuff on the Spider-Girl Reddit, like when you mentioned Felicity, I was like, I need to get on my soapbox because it's like I have to let it slide, but I'm constantly seeing like where people are putting OC next to her, and I'm like, she's not an original character.
No, she's not.
Like she's in she's in the MC2. It was official printed Marvel storyline. It's else, like you can call it like an Elseworld alternative universe, whatever, but she's not an original. Like OC means original character. Do you guys like have we lost the fandom text of old?
Do we need to get the ancient scrolls of the internet and be able to tell you what things are?
Do I need to pull out the original coding on fanfiction.net in 2002?
We will get the Wayback Machine, and we will do this as a public service to all.
I feel like we should. Like, it also ties into all of like the rants I have about these questions. Like,
yeah.
So speaking of these questions, we got 7 questions from Not Gonna Lie. I don't normally use Not Gonna Lie because it's anonymous, but I was trying to figure out the best way to get some questions in quickly and felt like, okay, look, maybe if there's an anonymous thing, we'll at least get something, because I think some people get intimidated by asking a question with their name on it. So I don't technically know who did these, but I did cave and pay the $6 to see the IP. So I do know where these questions came from and can make some guesses.
We can make some educated guesses. We don't know for sure, but we can make some educated guesses.
So, just so you guys do know. But
do you want me to ask the question and then give my response and then let you respond on this?
Well, we can jump back and forth because I do want to say this one since I wouldn't be streaming this. But let's go ahead and start with the questions. Although apparently I have this whole rant. Let me get out this rant. Because
yeah, that's what I was meaning.
I wrote a lot on and off today.
And she edited this rant throughout the day. So
quite a few times. Yeah. So, but anyway,
I saw the original rant and it's a little more tame.
It is. I tried to take a step back, but so in order to get at least 30 to 60 minutes of today's episode, I made a Not Gonna Lie link. I hate it since it is anonymous and the app sends out AI generated questions that feel really invasive and weird, and you never know what the app is doing with your answers. Though this app does log your IP and location when you send a question. So if inappropriate, if people are inappropriate, I can track down who sent it. I know that the fandom thinks that they're slick. They're not. Like Spider-Man fandom overall thinks they're slick. They're not. So, which I do like. But anyway, here are the relevant questions from the link today. Actually, it is all of the questions. You guys were very tame, but it was maybe 7 questions amongst 3 people. So thank you, 3 people.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to it. The first question is, when's the Mayday Ultimate Alliance stream? Do we need to get Neil?
I mean, we might have to.
I will watch it. I'm just not playing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, because I'm running a Mac, so I can't probably play. I mean, I might
probably find you a ROM.
Yeah, I might be able to use. Yeah, I might be able to find a ROM to play.
Yeah.
I haven't played the game in so long. Now,
you might not be able to get the mods. Yeah. That might be a situation.
So fun fact, through SharePlay on the PS5 stuff, I can connect it to my computer via SharePlay. So that's how I've been able to do the streams that I've been playing.
The
first game. So if we can figure that out, then yeah. But
Well, we'll figure it out. It could be something special. That could be, since Neil has talked about Patreon exclusives, but I don't like doing that. I don't like doing that for Make Mine Mayday. To me, the goal is not money. The
I
goal
think for
is
that we would make it
community.
yeah, we would make it
Yeah.
public, or even throw it in the Discord and be like, hey, you know what I mean, like, and give people access to the link or whatever. I'm fine with all that. To me, I mean, I'll talk with Neil about it because we got some stuff we're going to talk about soon. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it would be fun. So whomever, which I'm assuming it's the professor again.
Like I said, I can't tell you. I can just tell you the location of the IP.
So, all that being said, reach out to me and we'll try to get something set up, maybe.
Yeah. All right. So, second question, I will let Zach go ahead and do this one.
All right. So, jokes aside, what about a stream to talk about the community around the book or May's impact on things? And I'm going to give my response, which is very short, and then I'm going to I'm going to let Kelly have the floor here because there's a lot of things that she brings up that she can speak about because there really does need to be an in-depth discussion, and I'm going to give her the floor to do so. And by the end of it, I think you'll understand why, and we've kind of teased this. So, Kelly,
I'll be honest, this question kind of made the episode. So, on one hand, thank you for answering it. And I am sorry because I do not believe it was ever sent in with any malice intention, but it set me off a particular way because this has been something that we have discussed behind the scenes so long. I mean, this is one of the reasons when Neil was trying to be super, super good and organized and actually get a game plan for this year set out. I kind of went off on him a little bit because I was just like, with what content do I have to make something? And this ties directly into it. So to kind of go into it, I have a bone to pick with this question. Because what do you think we've been doing this whole time? Like, when have we not been talking about or trying to involve the community, talk to the community, talk about the history of the community and the fandom? When we've not talked about Mayday's impact or the book's impact in Marvel over the years? I mean, we've done that almost every single episode. And so it's like, so what is happening here? I feel gaslit right now. And 4 years of my work is non-existent.
Yeah.
We've I wrote in here, have you not been listening to the show? I know that they have. But the thing is the issue a confirmation bias to talk about specific important things that you want us to talk about to the fandom? Because if that's so, we need you to say what you feel and what contributions to the fandom you want us to talk about. Right. What do you want us to talk about if what we're saying is not connecting? Because we can't share it if we don't know what you're talking about. As an example, Incantor sends us work on all of the mods for Alliance and all the MC2 characters that they create. I've talked about Frogoat's blog left, right, and center from the very beginning, for the last 4 years, and how we want to get him on and talk about the fandom and talk about Spider-Girl because he is very important to the legacy of Spider-Girl and the fandom as a whole. He has pretty much kept the light on. Yeah. In dark periods of time. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like he's getting the recognition he deserves by some of the people, especially within the subreddit lately. Right. And that kind of what also sets me off and kind of goes into this. I've talked about the subreddit. We've talked about the mystery letters that were sent to key members of the old message board. In fact, our second episode, we had a round table with the members from the old message board who were integral to the Save Spider-Girl campaign. We've talked about fan artists and original Spider-Girl fan fiction writers. We've talked about our own headcanons and how we would write this fan fiction if we had the time. I just don't understand exactly what we're not doing to reflect the fandom's history and community. Because that's the way this question's coming off. We're not doing enough. Okay. So what are we not doing correctly? What are we not doing to discuss Mayday's importance every chance we get? What could we change? What could we do differently? Exactly what are you looking for us to say and do that we haven't already done? Because this is my thing. I have a feeling the real issue is, and this goes deeper than this question, because I think I know who asked this question, and I'm more perplexed than anything by it, but it does dive deeper into how I've been feeling for the last, I would say the last year. And as I sit and I watch the fandom, most people just kind of seem that they want their own confirmation bias to their headcanons or their contributions to the fandom, and anything outside of that is being ignored, thrown away, and left behind. And it's more than just, and when I say like they want their headcanons confirmed, nothing else. It goes beyond just, like our joke of being convinced Normie Osborn vibes to the Lion King soundtrack, because that actually does have like canon roots. But
yeah,
anyway,
but we're not taking that as like gospel. We're not, that's the whole point.
Exactly. Versus I'll keep reading what what I wrote, because I think that's the part where it's important. It's like, it's what I've seen lately, and this is not just Spider-Girl. This is all the comic fandom, and honestly, it's all fandom. I've seen it in the Taylor Swift fandom. I've seen it at the HHN and theme park communities. I've seen it in horror. I've seen it everywhere. Like this is just fandom in general. This is the internet in general at this point. It's toxic. It's insane. And I'm getting on my soapbox. And I apologize if anybody feels like I'm talking about them directly or think I'm calling anybody out. I'm not, as this is very generalized, but it's a large reason I'm personally burned out from the comic fandom as a whole, and have kind of checked out. Like I'll use Mayday and the Spider-Girl fandom as an example here, but I'm also going to use the Danny Phantom fandom, just so that way because I'm trying my best to make sure it hits home that this is so much deeper than just one subreddit comment or one, like this is something I'm seeing every day. But it goes deeper. This is happening in Pokemon. Pokemon's a big one. Batman, Danny Phantom, Spider-Man, particularly. I'm really beside myself on it, and I've really sat in silence about it for a while because I don't know how to explain it without feeling like the bad guy. But like an example, your chat GPT conversations with Mayday, or Ash Ketchum, or God only knows who, they're not accurate or rooted in the writing. It's not rooted in canon. It's AI generated fan fiction, and it's not even pulling from the source material. Like I promise you, AI is only pulling from what people feed it and kind of what it can find on the internet, which is going to be God knows what. And considering like I know the role play requests I would get in my DMs for almost every single costume I've ever worn, I know what's being fed into Chat GPT, and it's gross. It's not accurate or knowledgeable. Also, just FYI, stop giving Elon Skynet insight into you, because it will be used against you in the uprising. Maybe that's a really old joke. Go watch Terminator.
Go watch the Terminator now.
Anyway, to me, in my opinion, using stuff like that or pushing a narrative that has no merit in the source material, like with Danny Phantom, for example, the amount of people who are probably 15, 16 years old, never once watched the series, just found the fan fiction and really decided that they loved the fan fiction. And this, I'm not even kidding, this is true. But like they refuse to accept that Danny Fenton is a cis male because they want him to be a trans character because they love the allegory of him going ghost. Totally cool. Definitely makes sense. Great fan fiction. Not canon.
Yeah, it's like
so
people
when
trying to make Spider-Gwen into some people are talking about them being trans, and it's like that's not what's being portrayed.
Even if that's what they decide to do in the movies,
right?
That's not in the comics,
right? Exactly.
But the whole thing is, like, with that, I definitely understand the allegory. I appreciate that allegory, and I'm glad that they find that connection. But putting that on the character and then having Gabriella Epstein write A Glitch in Time, which if anybody hasn't pulled that graphic novel, it's very awesome. And she did such a wonderful job taking the world and continuing it, because that was a very tall order.
Right.
That Nickelodeon gave her. And the thing is like, you're not going to get what you want here because that's not canon. And so to then be upset that what you think or what you want to be true is not true. And that goes, I've touched base on this with May multiple times. We've had this multiple times. Like a neutral one is May has to be a mutant, even though that's been made very clear in the comics. She is not, at least not in World 982. In fact, we've had 2 storylines about how she's not, but she.
And in the letters pages, I remember this. Tom specifically, when he was asked, no, she's not a mutant. She just inherited her father's powers. She has no X gene.
No. But of course, people can't, because they want what they want, or they only read
Wikipedia.
Not even Wikipedia. They only read and my brain's Renew Your Vows.
Yeah.
So, and they associate that with Annie, which of course I believe Annie's not even considered X gene in the series, right? Like, at least not in the later half, because it has a bunch of.
Yeah, if I recall, I think what it was she went and trained.
She trained with them, yes,
but not that she was a mutant. I don't think I'll have to reread it. It's been so long.
Yes, there's the Sentinel stuff in the beginning, but then suddenly that just goes away. Anyway,
there's 2 halves of that series. It's like when Jodie has it, and then like when.
There's 3. There's technically 3.
Yeah, 3. Like Conway's initial part of it, or
Slot, Conway.
Yeah, Conway, and then Jodie.
Hauser. Yeah. So, and they all feel a little bit different. So anyway, but there's stuff like that. But, even though it's been made in the comics, she's not, but to everyone willing to send emails to a stranger, including sending to a stranger's LinkedIn friends to ask them to hard K themselves, because this happened. This was a part of that hard, you remember the Proton anonymous emails and stuff like that, where I couldn't figure out, like, I had a feeling it was somebody else, but considering what I know now, I'm almost fairly certain it was some fans of a particular fan artist who likes to draw May in their comics and constantly says that they had her teaching a X-Men class and basically saying she was a mutant. I got a lot of hate for pointing out that she's not. And a lot. And it was completely inappropriate. And to me, and this is the reason I'm bringing this out, it's highly disrespectful towards me. It's disrespectful towards women in general.
Yeah.
And once, because again, I stress WTF on it. Like, you guys do not understand some of the things that come through the Make Mine Mayday inbox. But it's disrespectful towards the character. It's disrespectful towards Mayday, because some people would rather spread misinformation for their own clout over reading a comic. And it's a slap in the face to the creative team just to disregard the canon like that, because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's a slap in the face of the people who fought like hell to keep this comic and character alive so you can meet them later. Like, the comic and character you rally behind and love today because the character gets you numbers on social media posts. Because that's, at this point, that's how the fandom is running.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the community. Nobody cares about talking to each other or connecting with each other. They care about their numbers and how many likes they get, how many comments they get. But they're not actually answering it, and they're not actually enjoying the source material.
Yeah.
They just want the clout And, the thing is like, you are not in with those people. You are not the first person to find it. And for most of you that do this, you weren't even born in 1998. You probably weren't even born in 2008. And you didn't find this until the original run was long finished. And that's okay. I'm glad younger generations are here. Like, I'm glad you're here. I want you to be a part of it. But you wouldn't have found this without the people and the fandom that came before you. And it's really disrespectful to want to bury their contributions or pretend they didn't exist because they're old. And remind you that this isn't some super exclusive club and you aren't the only fan out there. The original crew did not leave this fandom. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Even if they're not shit posting like what we see almost every day, they are watching and reading your bad takes and your weird self-inserts, and it's alienating them. Because it alienates me.
Yeah.
We aren't going to be able to revive Spider-Girl correctly without everyone. So think about that. You could learn from the people who were able to get the series continued. Now, the game is completely different.
Yeah, it's true.
And, it's a monkey's paw situation. But you're not going to be able to get what you want without community. And this also ties in just outside of fandom. It also ties in just in general. The US is in hell right now. And the only way we can fight back against what's happening is a community. But do you know what I've not seen? Anyone actually building anything. Nobody is getting together. Nobody is talking. Because everybody wants to be the face. Nobody wants to actually put in action.
Well, and it goes back to something about when everyone has a platform, and now that podcasting has become in vogue and now profitable for a lot of people.
Well, and that's my other thing too. I wonder how many people think social media is profitable. Because that's no, it's my thing, and I've seen it with cosplay too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of your cosplayers don't make their money off the social media posts. I know you think they do.
No,
they don't. And that's kind of my thing. So many people equate fame with money. And that's not true. Everybody was talking about the LA fires.
Yeah.
Most of the people that had, you might consider them famous or you might know of them, especially the music artists, they don't have a lot of savings. All of their belongings that made them rich, according to Forbes, were in that house.
There's a difference between liquid assets and hard assets.
Yeah.
And for those people in the LA fires, because in some cases you had homes that were destroyed, that were inherited. And the way the laws were working with how they were inherited in the property taxes were different if they were inherited homes. But now when you have to completely rebuild your home, it goes into a completely different setup. And so there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to be able to rebuild.
No, and that's what the rich want. What the banks want, what the billionaires want. But the whole point is, and what I'm trying to say is, you don't know what you don't know. And I think so many people are trying their best to make their name for themselves, within the fandom or just within social media, because now you can have a social media you can make this your day job as a social media content creator using the fandom. But I don't think people are realizing that in and of itself, social media in and of itself has kind of destroyed the old message boards, the old pro boards where we actually talk.
Yes.
Because nobody's talking to each other.
I mean,
they're all wanting each other up. And that's it's one reason why I've definitely I haven't put the costume on in a while. I really haven't posted to Instagram in a while because I'm tired of this. To me, this show is done for community. And
yeah,
apparently it was done for nothing, going by the way that question was written.
which
And
I don't think, again,
yeah,
like you said
it
earlier.
wasn't meant that way. No,
Yeah.
but it brings into the bigger picture of, okay, well, what are we doing wrong? Like,
You know,
how have I not gotten this forward? Or is it because I'm holding steadfast in what the content actually is?
and I think that also goes into, like, we've poured our hearts out trying to honor what came before us because we understand, the two of us. Um, you know, we were both there in various ways growing up with this, and so I
Well,
can,
just also on the internet and
yeah,
fandoms.
yeah. I remember I was talking about this. I was like, my first computer was a Windows 95 machine. I remember getting on the internet in 1998, 99, 2000. And the internet then was more like the town square. You would have these little town squares. You had these little communities where people became friends, lifelong friends. Brad Douglas is a lifelong friend of mine because of that type of stuff.
It was partly pen pal, partly,
Yeah.
it there was this nuance there because you didn't have your face, so to speak, there. And
There
you
was
weren't
that level of
and there
anonymity.
wasn't any way of making money off of it.
Exactly. And the thing about going viral and stuff like that, yes, there are people that go viral but I was talking with a creator and the other day and on TikTok, and they're like, I just want to be known for something more than the one set of stories that I got to be known for. And it was heartbreaking to hear them talk about that because it's like, man, it becomes a whole feeding a machine type thing. Like with what you're saying, you're doing it just to get the clout. You're not doing it because
You're not doing it because it speaks to you. You're not doing it because you enjoy it. You're not doing it
yeah,
because, like for me, like with Mayday, everything I want to do, I want to make sure I honor her. Like I have this whole like thing that I haven't completely finished where I was just like, I'll leave you guys with this. Y- y- You know, I know that the person who asked me this question didn't mean to set me off.
yeah,
You know, or for me to start talking about how there's a serious problem in fandoms in general about other
you-
fans wanting to alienate and kind of erase how older communities used to be, which again, I need to stress is happening in every single fandom that is at least 20 plus years old right now. Even in music fandoms,
yeah,
this isn't just one fandom's problem, but the internet as a whole at this point. But you would hate if you were constantly being misrepresented as anything but yourself and your intentions.
mm,
You know, put yourself in the character shoes, in the creative team shoes who created this world and wrote about this world for 23 years. Like I get newer fans wanting their headcanons to be valid and wanting to feel important, to feel like a main character in their fandom and on social media. We live in a world where everybody wants to be the big star, the pearl of their respective corner of the internet.
mhm.
But this is where shows like Make Mine Mayday, or Rogo's blog come in to give you the tools so you do know the full story and you can empower yourself to be that call to arms, that face of Spider Girl without pissing all over the people who came before you and the creative team, because that's
Yeah.
ultimately what's happening right now. And, stop biting the hand that feeds you, because otherwise, at some point, you're not going to get fed because the hand's too bruised to do so. And I really hope that makes sense. I hope I'm not the villain, but I am so burned out by it because it's all I see,
Mhm.
and we've got to be better. Like literally in terms of like building communities, in certain situations, it's life or death at this point. And I'm not seeing any hope. So the only way to keep fandoms alive, the only way to keep people alive is to actually start talking to each other and building a community.
And you know,
and listening to your elders and knowing your history.
Yeah. And part of that is, I think people are afraid of disagreement sometimes because they want the confirmation bias. They want to be affirmed in what they think.
Exactly. They're not willing to take into consideration, like the Danny Phantom situation. Do you know for the last 12 years, like, and I mean it's been about 12 years, there's been this ongoing crossover with Batman. Just the wildest, stupidest thing ever. But people do crossovers all the time. It's fine. But it has spurned other people to make those crossovers to the point that that is the biggest fan fiction story on AO3 for Danny Phantom is this vast world of Batman and Phantom, to the point that there are people on Tumblr that only know Danny Phantom from these fan fictions.
I mean, listen,
but you know what I mean? Like, it's not canon, y'all. That's definitely not canon.
And something you didn't mention, but because I kind of talk about this in a second.
Yeah.
Was people want to revive the book. I get it. I would love for the book to be revived. But here's my thing. I don't I was the Ben Reilly, bring Ben Reilly back guy on the internet. I've done this for almost 20 years. So I have a long history of a lot of things that I've said in that span. I can tell you that knowing what I know now, I would not want Ben Reilly back. I don't like Ben Reilly right now as a character, as they're being presently constructed. Every time they've brought in Spider-Girl, I don't feel like, for the most part, and we talked about this on the show, that they have had a reverence or a respect for the character. Now, I do know that there are people that are working at Marvel that do have a reverence for that era of publishing. I know that.
Yeah, but then you have Brevoort
but then you also
starting troll fights.
Yeah, you also have they're not able to impact it in the way that the rest of us would hope is my point. So
it's at the point with Marvel that if you know enough about a character to be able to handle the timelines that they're giving you, they don't want your story. I do not know why.
Yeah,
but that literally is kind of where this is going.
And you talk about toxic fandom. We've talked about that with Spectacular Spider-Man. You see that with the Snyder Bros and them going after James Gunn over his new Superman movie because it's not what they want. And it's just like, guys.
Okay, look, the Spider Bros, the Snyder Bros are some of the Matt Ramos.
Yeah, I mean,
numero uno, like as an example of exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Matt Ramos.
And it's just like,
I hate it. I hate it when he shows up on the previews in the movies because it's gross. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He never has, and he never will, because he cannot. Yeah. He cannot move past his own butthole.
Well, and it's one of those things where we've also talked about this too. We don't try to farm for content. We don't try to outrage post. Sometimes we will have some fun with stuff here on the network, but for the most part, and we have fun with rants and things like that. But like reading what Kelly was talking about, I can tell you it broke my heart, and I knew that I had to let you have the space to talk about this.
Well, it's been, speaking of crawl space, like I don't want to do it half the time. Like, I do the bare minimum because I am burned out by the fandom. Yeah. I don't want to hear, I'm sorry, sure, I know people don't like Paul, but I'm so tired I'm tired of it because the moment somebody just starts talking about how like blind, like they are so blind because all they're singularly focused on Paul, the character of Paul and what he stands for, but they're not looking at everything else that's wrong with the
Oh,
thing. But if I point it out or bring it up or I say something or I even just give some kind of kudos, how dare you? Because Paul exists. Like I don't want to be in that world anymore. I don't want to deal with that. Like
like there,
I don't it's
life's first of all, life's too short to be like to read bad comics. Number one, number two, and people that I know, some people that watch our other streams are gonna be like, "Well, why are you still doing the ASM shows?" I'm still finding some enjoyment out of ASM. It's just not my favorite.
well, two things have bad moments and good moments. Unfortunately, with the editorial team we have, there seems to be a lot more bad moments than good moments.
Yeah.
And until that changes, that changes. Like we just have to deal with what we're given, what we've got. And again, you do not have to pick it up. You do not have to focus on it. You can focus on like it's kind of the similar situation of like, at least here in America, we see the news and there's like one set of news that is definitely meant to rile you up and make you only focus on that. And then there's what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Let's stop focusing on the thing that's just going to piss us off. Let's focus on what's actually happening because that's the thing we do need to focus on. And I feel like that's kind of the situation with Paul. Everyone's focused on Paul. Paul was literally created just for you to focus your anger on.
Yeah. And it got so bad that they literally shipped him off to a Venom book. So they didn't have to hear about it anymore because it got to the point where they're like, "Oh, we
people are following it just to hate read Paul."
Yeah, like, I know.
At this point, Paul deserves his own book.
Well, it's just like
the Pauliverse.
My thing about Paul. What? There
Also,
is
Peter, Paul, and Mary. Did nobody realize that?
No, I guess not. But also, like, Paul is a two-dimensional character. There is not a lot of depth to him, and he's brand freaking new. And look, I've often said there's no bad characters, only bad writers. And there may be somebody that has a very compelling story that stars
the Pauliverse.
The Pauliverse that stars that character. And you know what? And look, there may be somebody that started reading Spider-Man, God bless him if it was, during that particular period of time, and they're going to have nostalgia for Paul. Okay?
20 years from now.
Yeah, we're going to get like Paul revivals in 25 years because nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Apparently, it keeps us dumb. Nostalgia. Anyway,
let's move on. Man, we went on a wild tangent there.
We have gone on a tangent, but yeah, let's move on. So, question number 3 is: what are your opinions on the Hellspinner fan comic Mayday in the OMD timeline? They've been posted to Reddit or Twitter. So at first I wrote about this and I was like, I haven't seen it or haven't heard about it. But then Neil showed me the link and it didn't register with me because I've never associated it with 982. I know that it is a fan comic about Baby May. And it does pull a lot from Spider-Girl, but in my opinion, it's whatever they can find on a wiki. Which is, I mean, it's not bad. Like, it's not bad. Like, they're doing the research.
They're trying. They're trying.
Yeah, and they've brought so many things in at this point that it's also like it's entirely in its world of its own. So I know the artist is using the 982 to reference and make mention of MC2. And a lot of fans, of course, love any mention of Baby May. Full circle from earlier, even though we really only gave movie Baby May like 15 minutes. But just to remind people, as I've said it, I need to say it 3 times, I guess, but 616 and 982, they're not the same timeline. And it doesn't just like diverge from and decide on international waters, which in this fan comic it does.
Right.
You know, but like I said, we've combed through all of this so much, and you can read 4 years of episodes. And we found little bits and pieces that kind of show you the divergence is a lot sooner than that in 982. And that's okay because it speaks to the world as its own. You know, but I am happy about the fan work. I think AU worlds are really fun in fan works. And, you know, just remember that that's what that is. It's a fan work. It is alternative universe. It's not canon. Because like I said, I think at this point, a lot of people only read fan works and then they take it as fact. They don't know what is the artist's or writer's flair, I guess, like their take on the character versus, you know, other things. And I think, am I speaking? Okay, there we go. Zach, I think you froze.
Oh, I was just reading. Sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, that's kind of my take on it. Have you read the Hellspinner comics?
I have not. I didn't know they existed until today.
Okay, cool.
So I have no opinions, unfortunately.
Cool. I know Paul's in it now.
Oh.
Speaking of Paul, like I said, it's taken a world of its own.
Wow. So yeah.
All right. So you get 4.
Okay. So ignoring the subtext of why Anya and Maddie were made, do you think they work as 616 Mayday's equivalent, similar to how 616 Yondu is definitely not like how Guardians 3000 is of Yondu?
Not with Anya. Anya is her own character and was kind of forced into the title and lost her spark in doing so because that was a mandate.
Yeah.
I know Marvel hates that word and claims that that's not true. They never give out mandates. That was a mandate. So anyway, and then Maddie isn't Spider Girl per se. But I think I get what the person who asked the question is saying. And I do like Maddie's story, but sadly Maddie didn't really have a long enough run to really associate her with even Spider-Woman at this point. So I don't think she quite works either in the long term. I don't think that, you know, there is a Spider-Girl in the 616 that even compares to Mayday, in my opinion. Each character has different voices and they don't speak to me like Mayday does. So I really can't say that there's anyone similar. You know, each character is their person, like their own person. Yeah. And they have their own contribution and their own legacy that has been carved out.
You know, to me, Mayday's one of one. Kind of to dovetail off that, you know, to me, it's because, at least from my perspective, she was written by a guy who's probably forgotten more about Spider-Man than most that ever written him. He understands the characters of Peter and Mary Jane and how we try in an ideal world to be the best parts of our parents, but to use the discussions that we had with like JMD Mateus here on the network, Tom and Coke kind of treated her like an actual human being that grew and out of an organic way, and the imagination and seeing him in the mind's eye and seeing her in the mind's eye and the mindscape and putting that to the paper allowed her to not just be, because far too often it's, oh, she's going to act just like Peter, or oh, she's going to act just like Mary Jane. That's lazy. What you do is you kind of let the characters write themselves and they grow into their own that way. And the great characters that we know and love, and when you read all this stuff that's come out with them over the years, that's what makes them so compelling, is that they grow organically. You know what I mean? And every time it feels like there's like the thumb is put on the scale to try to put the character on a road that doesn't make sense, it just feels forced and inauthentic. So
well, it doesn't. My thing is every character that lasts, like speaking of Paul and other things, every character that lasts has a distinct voice. And I think it's unfair to pit different characters that have their own legacies against each other because they are so different. There's no one-to-one. Like, you know, I know a lot of people were like, oh, like Mayday's like Helena Wayne or whatever. And it's like, in some aspects, sure, but not really. And also, if you read the Helena Wayne original B story, it sucked. And she's in an inappropriate relationship with Dick. And I just no. So again, it like there's stuff that it's so different. There's no reason to compare them. Because too, it's like comparing people. You can't do that.
Well, and to go to the Maddie thing, there's apples and oranges to me with those two.
Yes, totally different. They serve totally different purposes too.
Well, and I'll say this: like, I have some issues with Maddie. I know it's probably going to give me some hate, but
more hate than I'm going to get.
There seems to be a pattern with Maddie's co-creator that is just a little disturbing.
Yeah.
And that gets into why I have some issues with that. So
yeah. That tracks. Yep. All right. So with that,
moving on, because we're not going to get into that on this show.
No, we're not. Given Ultimate Spider-Man issue 13, do you think Mayor Richard will follow in Mayday's 982's footsteps? For me, I think that would be jumping the shark on the whole point of Ultimate. You know, since Ultimate is really meant to give the older audience that has been demanding Family Man Peter Parker a book and an outlet. But you know, and in that situation though, if the fans are also screaming for the kids to have powers because people apparently want the Incredibles Spider-Man edition, then it's going to happen. I don't vibe with it for what I would like to see in that world, what I think has been built in that world. You know, but I'm not the target audience. Like, I even feel like I'm not the target audience there because to me, I want Spider-Girl. I want World 982. This is not 982. This is something different, and it is good. To me, it goes back to the basics. It focuses on the drama and the soap opera-ness that is Spider-Man that I think has been lost for a long time. You know, so like I respect it for what it is. To me, Richard and Mayday are like not my favorite parts of the series, and I don't think they should be. Like, they're definitely better as supporting cast.
Yeah, I don't see enough at this moment in time for the characters to be able to do that. I do like what they did with Richard because I think it's interesting how they're keeping the facade of Spider-Man up. We'll definitely learn more, I guess, in the next issue, but as that arc wraps. But I also think something that we've kind of said throughout the entirety of this episode is, and I want to stress this, 6160 Mayday is not Mayday.
Yeah.
That May Parker is a completely different May Parker, just like, to tease a future episode, the Earth X Mayday Parker is not Earth 92 Mayday Parker.
No.
At all.
That's not the Peter you know.
Yeah.
It's not, to me, the worst part of Earth X is seeing where those characters are in that world, because that world is bleak.
Yeah.
It is tough to deal with, tough to swallow.
It's hard to read.
Yeah.
It's beautiful artwork.
That's why I was like, I don't necessarily ever want to do it, but we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, these are different worlds, they're different characters, they're different people.
Yeah.
And to me, the May in, because I don't even really want to call her Mayday, but the May in 6160 is definitely not our May. She doesn't even look like our May. Like,
no, visually, she's like a mini Mary Jane.
I'll be honest. I love how, like, the only child that someone looks like Peter Parker. is our May.
I know.
Everybody else.
Like they think those redhead genes are strong.
To me, it's just like, so do y'all not understand recessive alleles? Like,
Well,
do we need to go to like 8th grade science? Anyway,
considering the way our education system is these days, I'm not surprised that people don't understand basic genetics.
It's true.
So yeah, our next question, our penultimate question.
Yeah. This one's you.
Oh, is this me? Okay.
Yeah.
An ASM number, and I don't know if this is the right number, but this is the number that they gave. An ASM number 439 is implied that May, Miguel, and Max all exist in the same world. How would the existence of Mayday impact Miguel's and Max's future, assuming that she, like her dad, aren't wiped from their own history books? I don't get this whole.
What's happening? I'm confused.
Yeah, we're both confused, but I also don't get this obsession. And I kind of blame Slot for it, and it's not necessarily Slot's fault. This is where editorial should have been like, they're different universes. Because like the Days of Future Past timeline isn't the canon timeline, right? Every time you see the X-Men go into the future, that's not the actual future of the X-Men or the Avengers, right? Because we've seen that time travel stuff with
see, and that's the situation in a lot of these fandoms, because they see Rachel and they see Nate and they see Cable.
Yeah.
Which Nate and Cable are the same character, but at one point in time in the comics,
yeah, they were two different.
They had 2 different universes of Nates in 616 just hanging out. So the whole point is like I feel like the issue is people understand all like multiverse, but they also don't understand multiverse. And they don't understand that, especially in a future comic, there's going to be so many different divergences. I think one of the things, like, you remember one of the criticisms after the latest Spider-Verse movie came out is everybody was talking about the canon events.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt like, it started becoming a meme and it started becoming a joke. But they were trying to explain it in a movie way of saying, this is how this world diverges.
Yeah.
If you break this canon event, then there's going to be 2 timelines. It's going to unravel. They kind of hint at it with MCU in the latest Deadpool movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
anchor beam is the phrase.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of the situation that's happening. And I feel like maybe the main issue is that as much as people say they get it, they don't completely get it. Because it is a hard thing to wrap your mind around. And so it's a lot easier to just go, oh, they're now everybody exists in one thing. And
well, it's just like everybody
it is hard.
The layman kind of equates time travel with the rules of Back to the Future. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily the case. That's why it was a little different when they did things in Endgame and Infinity War. So it's like trying to explain the multiverse to somebody. It's not the 616 timeline is not a linear event. No. And I know that Marvel keeps trying to kind of tease that 2099 is the future. That's not what Peter David intended.
It's just an alternative universe. And that's the whole point of the multiverse.
Yeah.
Now I will bring up, because is this the Max that I'm thinking of, or is this like a completely different Max?
I don't even know who the hell Max is.
Okay, cool.
In this scenario, I just know who I know who Mayday and Miguel are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my thing is like, are we sure somebody didn't transpose 982 and 928 and then get confused? Because Miguel is from 928 and Mayday is from 982.
Yeah.
And because that's kind of what this sounds like to me, which, if it is true, I don't like it. Right. I haven't read ASM since the jackpot stuff. I have a personal protest because I feel like what that does to Mary Jane Watson and her history is really misogynistic and gross and lazy. So I don't like it. And that it's my personal protest not to read it. So I did ask Zach if he could clear it up, but I'm confused. He's confused. It sounds like other people are confused.
So leave us an email at
Yeah, so please explain. If you wrote that question and you are listening, please explain. Because I don't know. And like I read it multiple times as I was typing it out because I was like, I gotta make sure I get this correct because I'm very, very confused.
And Kelly and I are sitting there DMing each other back and forth, going, I'm trying to
like what's happening here?
Yeah.
You know, and so like I have this. I gotta throw Nick Lowe astray as I can. I was like
not me having an email
Lowe,
chain with that said person for a future episode right now. So Nick, this is
my opinions do not reflect Zach's opinions.
I know. I'm just kidding.
There's no reason for Nick Lowe to come on Make Mine Mayday, so I can do all I want. Because you know what? He's been a jerk to people that had legitimate concerns and was disgusting. And he deserves the strays.
I'm staying out of it.
But I catch him. But anyway, I'm just saying, are we sure he just didn't not catch a world glitch and somebody who wrote it got confused because they misread a number? And did anybody reading it even know the difference?
This is why I miss Mark Grunwald. We
need editors who actually
he would have
enough to care.
Yeah, well, and I mean that, but also like he would have tried to like make it make sense if he were still with us, you know. We need the reincarnation of him.
I don't even like, I'm just more like, where is this from? I need to read it because I don't know where the hell this is. Like I don't have the context.
Well, I know that
I literally don't know what's happening.
I know there were some shenanigans with Venom, but
yeah, there's something going on with Kid Venom which I haven't read into. I know I should, but like I said, I'm a little burned out, and I just don't feel like if it's literally 1 or 2 pages, I'll get to it in time.
Yeah.
Because that's at least that's what it sounded like to me. And everybody was like, she's out of character. And it's like, okay, but if she was only saying like 2 lines. Okay. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, last question. Other than Mayday, what MC2 characters would you want to see brought back? Miss those 2000 miniseries so much. Bonus and/or who do you wish got a series but didn't? So I'm not sure what you mean by bring back, as we've been very clear on this. Double-edged sword. You do not want this brought back. Not under the current editorial team. Sorry.
Or if they're going to bring it
Nick
back,
Lowe, please talk to Zach.
No, it's fine. If they're going to bring it back, like bring Tom in, you know, to at least oversee it would be my ideal. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Tom's retired mostly, so he's writing his novels. Love you, Tom.
Yeah, love you. Anyway, but yeah, so I would have loved a continuation of the Fantastic Five miniseries because that left us on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Also, Blue Streak deserved a mini, but you know, again, don't want Marvel taking MC2 characters and bringing them into whatever the heck is going on right now because, as we just mentioned, we don't even know what's happening right now. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, and like when we've seen like. We've seen them show up in like other stuff. It's like, why is Peter just putting his legs on the table like a gross person? I mean, I know he's happy to have his leg back, but that's just weird.
You know what? Okay, so bringing into that, like, we don't like that, but at the same time, I was like, okay, but
there was an attempt.
There was an attempt, and there was an opening.
Yeah,
and like it was very clear there is a story happening here, but that's not our main focus.
Yeah.
And and that's where it's like in those situations, it's like I do my best when it's like we know it's supposed to be canon. I do my best to try to bridge it. That's why the stuff
she is trying to be the Mark Grunwald of the MC2.
I try. My thing is I can't justify the Stephanie Williams books, like that story, because so much is different. I can't pinpoint it, you know? So yeah, it's
Speaking of Frogoat.
Oh, go. We did say his name multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, he is like Beetlejuice. So if we say his name enough times, he shows up.
But yay, I'm glad. We are gonna bug you, Frogoat, because we're gonna try to actually have an interview.
Your DMs will hopefully be open.
Oh my god.
That was not intended to be
phrasing.
That was not intended to be as bad as I meant it. Or I said it. Creepy. Anyway, going back to the question, not trusting Marvel, but to answer the question specifically, I would like to see a Fantastic Five one-shot or miniseries, maybe. Seems like with the hype of Fantastic Four First Steps, which that trailer looks to me great. I'm excited for it. It'd be fun to have Tom and like Ron Lim do it. To like,
oh yeah,
that would be like my ideal team.
Have you seen the Twitter stuff where everybody's like convinced First Steps is about baby Franklin? They're like convinced Franklin's going to be a part of this movie, which I don't think is happening that way.
They never even cast somebody to play Franklin. What are we talking about?
If it's a baby.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that's true. He's a baby.
Well, I think the issue is because everybody, maybe not necessarily the biggest fan, maybe they're more MCU fan, but you know, if you're a fan of Agatha Harkness, you already know, especially like because anything you read online highlights her being a nanny for the Fantastic Four. So I think that that's where people are going with it because they're like, oh, she'll be a ghost nanny.
I don't see how.
I don't say it either, but you know, I see the vision. I understand where they're piecing it together. I just don't see it.
I mean, conceivably,
the way they want it.
Yeah, conceivably, I could see Franklin being a reason that this separate universe gets brought in with via Secret Wars. I can see that, but again, headcanons, guys. Not all like I love the speculation, but we got to realize it's speculation, and if you don't get exactly what you want, it's okay.
I think the issue too is, look at what they did to Wanda's kids. They had to age them up just to be able to do Young Avengers show. Which now does happen in the comics too, but the whole point is it still ties into the whole fact of they're really not going to allow like small children because just labor laws. But they're not really going to allow small children to be on set or deal with stuff or be a part of, especially as they grow. They can't stay the same age if they're filming a multi-part movie and it's always supposed to be like through a few months and they're taking 10 years to tell the story.
Movies are not TV, guys. That's not how this works.
Even TV now works this way. Look at the Stranger Things kids. But anyway, the whole point is I don't really think that's happening. But you know, there's a talk about that. Also, just random, kind of popped in my head. What are your thoughts about Bob?
Oh, in Thunderbolts?
Yeah. I like how he's just Bob in the previews. So, and my thing is like this is the storyline where it's like you can actually like tell the people that have been like just Wikipedia like their way through the MCU, going like Matt Remus, going through saying that they know all this and know all that, but really they're just reading the blurbs. Because if you've read the Thunderbolts, you know Bob. I know what storyline they're pulling from.
Yeah, me too.
How do we feel about Louis Dreyfus being Norman Osborn here? Because I kind of like it.
I kind of do. I kind of dig the vibe. Every time I think of her name, I also think about how George always says the name, and it always makes me kind of chuckle because it's just not Val. He has to say like the entire name, and
because it's very important to say her name, but it's just Val. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel about the movie, but I at least enjoy the and Bob out of the lineup. Just Bob.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting how they're going to adapt that story.
Yeah, you will. From what I understand, executives are extremely happy. Which, you know, we've heard that before.
I was going to say we've
but
heard
like
that.
apparently it's like a shocking, like they're actually surprised. It's so maybe they mesh this team meshes a lot better.
To me, I'm going to say this. If you followed the MCU since the beginning of Phase 4, I feel like that movie is like rewarding you with a well-written, fun story that's going to be bonkers. And yeah, I'm there for it. Like, okay. I'm interested to see what happens with Captain America this weekend. And when we finally get to see the full movie. I guess I gotta finish Eternals now, apparently, according to the previews. So there's that.
Look, I liked Eternals. I thought it was good. I don't really understand. To me, it's more of I don't think the movie was marketed the way it needed to be.
No, it wasn't.
But otherwise, the movie itself is actually good, and it kind of makes me feel bad that they're not getting their.
Yeah, I'll say this. I feel like that's such an ambitious story to try to adapt.
It's ambitious, and also it's one of those wackier, weirder sides. This is the thing. We tend to do a lot better. Like the movies tend to do a lot better when there's been other media.
Yeah.
And that, has somewhat represented things. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why too, that's another reason why when everybody's like, no, we need a Spider-Girl cartoon. We need a Spider-Girl TV series. Sure. But guess what? You would have never known that there was an audience for that if you didn't have Baby May. Because not everything in comics will translate well.
Yeah.
And you need a bigger audience for other mediums to do well. So
yeah, I mean, like, it's a tall ask for people to invest in a Spider-Girl movie. Everybody knows who Spider-Man is. Everybody knows who Superman is. Everybody knows, even like, to use DC for a second, Creature Commandos, that's a tall ask for people to make an investment in, because
I like it as I think the cartoon series is a great place to introduce you. And that's kind of my whole thing. Different mediums help with introducing things, and then that can lead to kind of like the goal. Like if you want a movie, that will help lead into the movie because it'll help show that there's an audience.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily as Baby May, considering Baby May is basically Baby Yoda. But
yeah.
Never know. So so
we do have a voicemail. And
oh no. I know.
Do you want to play it, or I've seen the transcript. So
do it.
I've seen the transcript. So let me pull, because I know.
I wonder how Walter has messed with the transcript.
Oh God, I hope.
I don't trust it. I don't trust it.
Yeah, because sometimes the transcript is unintentionally hilarious. I will say that. All right, so where's it at? Okay, there's today's. All right. So here is Walter.
Spideydude come out and play.
That's creepy, Walter.
Hi, Kelly. How you doing? I just want to call in and ask you a quick question. I don't know if you're going to address this on the show or not, because right now I currently have you muted so you don't get any feedback. But live action Spider-Girl, your cast and director. That's my question. Really curious about this one because I don't think it's been asked before. If it has, well, I get a free question. Have a good show, guys.
I actually, I don't think I've ever
yeah, I don't think
I don't think I've ever discussed the dream casting. So off the top of my head, like I know, like we've talked about, like in the past, people have picked Mandy Moore, Christy Carlson Romano. They're definitely older.
Speaking of, she had a very scary incident. Christy
Who?
Carlson Romano, I guess it was last week. She had shrapnel.
Oh.
And like it got behind her eye, but she still hasn't lost her vision. But it was a very scary incident apparently.
That is scary.
So thoughts and prayers for her.
Yeah. Also, she just needs to probably realize she's one of those that like she needs the fame. Speaking of stuff, and I think to her detriment. But anyway.
Yeah.
I don't really know like a new person. Maybe Sophie Thatcher. Sophie Thatcher could work. She's in Yellow Jackets. She just did Companion.
Yeah, you'd want somebody that's like.
I have this like weird thing where somebody had brought up Willow Smith one time, and I think that would have been when she was younger.
Yeah.
That would have made really good sense with Will Smith as Peter, because I kind of vibe with that. I think that would be a really interesting.
Yeah, but I think that ship's probably sailed now.
Oh yeah, the ship is sailed. Ship is totally sailed. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. You might. But I don't think that that's anything Willow Smith would want to do now.
I don't even think that they want to act.
No, she does music.
Yeah, so, she's doing just exclusively music now. So
yeah. I've thought about that. Like I said, I guess like my idea would probably be Sophie Thatcher as far as directors. I would pick either Zelda Williams or I would want Bryce Dallas Howard. Because I think they would understand the comic ratio. I also think that they have really good vision. Like, of course, directors are not the people that end all be all. You also want your colorists, you want your set designers. There's a lot of teamwork that goes into it, but I think like Lisa Frankenstein was beautifully shot with Zelda Williams. So I think seeing her maybe do some comic films would be fun. Bryce Dallas Howard, of course, can do no wrong with her Star Wars.
I have a buddy, Nico, who is he does film stuff, but he's a big comic nerd. That would be a good question to ask him.
Yeah.
Hey, do like a fan cast of because like he knows all these directors and stuff like that. He follows like everything super close. I don't. So
well, like you said, I think there's so many people that want these big name directors, and I don't see the vibe, because to me, I would want the vibe to feel like as we read the comics. So like I want that almost kind of the way Raimi had the high school in Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
And I think like in that, like to me, that gives off almost Lisa Frankenstein vibes, because it's set in the high school.
Yeah, and to me, it would almost be better. And I feel this way with Spider-Man in general. And I think Spider-Girl's kind of the same way. As much as I would love a movie, I think a prestige television series would be better.
At this point, though, that's the same as a movie.
That's true.
I mean, so that's kind of why it's like, I get that part. Because I think to do it justice would take a more long form.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Approach. So you would rather have 8 hours versus
8 to 10 hours.
2.
Yeah,
and I would agree. And in that situation again, Zelda Williams, Bryce Dallas Howard, because they're good at that.
And I think Bryce Howard, I'm digging that from a standpoint of somebody who understands legacy, right?
But who also understands directing
legacy, but also like from a character standpoint, because I'm assuming they're going to have input on what's written.
Well, I think she'd know how to change things as needed because of the Star Wars aspect as well.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't necessarily think she's the expert in Star Wars, but I do think she's done enough research to make sure she's doing doing the intentions. Yes, that's exactly what he's asking. But
Well,
yes,
I'm thinking something like on ABC, or Disney Plus type thing.
Yeah, I mean, now as far as like the rest of the cast, I really don't know.
We may have to do a whole episode and devote an episode to that question, Walter. Truth be told.
Yeah.
To where we
I
sit
think
down.
so. I mean, like, and maybe it is because I just watched Companion, but like, I guess Jack Quaid would be a good normie. Because to me, I think he'd actually play a really good Peter Parker. And that's the thing with me.
You could get Dennis to play Peter and Jack to play Normie. I could see Dennis Quaid being a Peter Parker. Well, he
because they look too much alike.
Or he could play Norman, like the ghost of Norman. That would be fun.
Yes, that would be fun.
I think because when he plays a villain, he really does play a villain well.
Watch The Substance if you haven't.
I have not.
Watch his scene where he's eating, please.
Okay, I'll just look.
That is to me Norman Osborn-esque, 100%. So
yeah, so you make Jack Quaid Normie, and then Dennis Quaid.
Just ghost and then you can
make
that'd work.
And then Meg Ryan could be Emily. I'm sorry.
No, not Emily. No, Meg Ryan, young looking enough. She can just play
Liz.
Yeah, play Liz on her death. So me.
That is off.
Wait, is Billy Crystal foggy now?
I mean,
why does that work?
Would be fun. I mean,
why does that work somewhat?
That would kind of work. I could see him playing Foggy. Or I could play, yeah. Because the guy playing Foggy right now is a little too young.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what my brain is going. I'm like, everybody I've got like is for other stuff. I don't really know who could play the older versions of these characters. I don't really have like a full idea, because to me it's like I would also want to see what they would want to do with it. I'd want to see how they research the character. I'd want to see how they'd honor the character. There's a lot more that goes into just like finding talent, because there's a lot of talented people.
And there's also the elements too. Like I know Soap, our friend Soap, is like dabbled with some like screenwriting and stuff about like based on Spider-Girl. So it'd be like, yeah, you got to take account into different things. Obviously, we're talking unlimited budget. We're talking, we're gonna do 5 seasons if it's like an actual successful show, type thing. We're not, budget's no option type thing. So that'd be kind of fun. I think that'd be a really fun episode to do.
Well, if people want to hear it,
yeah, let us know. Because to us, I mean, we can say it can be fun, but if nobody wants to hear it, we're just not,
because that's really the main thing. It's what do you guys want to listen to? Because at this point, we're just kicking a can around.
Yeah.
Until we get enough storyline and whatever's happening in Kid Venom right now.
It's funny because you and I were kind of worried that this episode was not going to be 2 hours long, but it's you and I talking about stuff. And
I wanted it an hour. I'm kind of mad it's twice, but at the same time, we wanted to give you guys a full episode. So here's a full episode.
Yeah.
I don't really have my next episode spiel, because we will see you when we see you.
Yeah. So just check us out on the social medias. I need to update our graphics because they're a little out of the Make Mine Mayday ones are a little out of date, but follow us on the Facebook and Twitter as well. Follow us on those particular social medias. And if you haven't already found us on YouTube, find us on YouTube at Spideydude Radio Network. If you're listening to the audio edition, thank you. Leave us that 5-star review. Let us know by leaving us that type of feedback. We will read any and all feedback on the next episode. The email address, as Kelly has said, is makemymayday@gmail.com. Be nice. Don't send weird stuff. That's just not cool.
Or do, and we'll shame the crap out of you.
Yeah, we will.
Who pays for Proton Mail?
That's
psychos.
I mean, there was one that.
But you know what I mean, like
the
intention to then like say I need to be R-worded and die. Why? Like, why waste your
Why is that
money?
okay? Number one, and yeah, that's a lot of mental energy for a person you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't go touch grass. That is the recommendation for this episode.
Find community.
Yeah, find real community, make real genuine connections with people, not just on the internet, but in real life. Because life is too short to sit there and be lonely and miserable. And if you don't think you're lonely and miserable, that's cool. But like, if other people think you're lonely and miserable, maybe you might just be.
Yeah.
So we are so thankful for everybody that on our Patreon page. So as we wrap up the show, patreon.com/Spideydude Network, patrons that you see up on the screen, like Allison, Cindy, Ed, Eric, Georgia, Greg, Janelle, Jessica, Joyce, Catherine, Kale, Laura Howard, Moose, Master Draman, Phoenician, RJ, Vanessa, and Vicky. Thank you guys for your support over on the Patreon page, as well as Sarah and Tara as our spectacular patrons and our VIPs, Vinkman and Walter. Thank you guys for your support over on the Patreon page, patreon.com/Spideydude Network. We got more stuff coming your way. Of course, we have all of our stuff. We got the Books of X podcast. We have some more interviews that we are working on right now. We've got things like the Slot Symposium. Voices from the Eerie will be coming out. It's a new episode for the first episode of 2025 will be coming out before the end of the month. We got ASM Classics, Clone Saga Chronicles Spectacular Radio as the Vault series. We have also the Sal Buscema era podcast, which is going through maximum carnage. So if you want your 90s goodness, go check that out. And of course, we have our shows talking about Ultimate Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and Spectacular Spider-Men. So with that, we wrap up with you here on the episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of it. And we will see you next time here on Make Mine Mayday.